So a couple of days ago, Kevin De Bruyne announced that he will be leaving Manchester City at the end of this season, and subsequently he will be leaving the Premier League at the end of this season, and that now brings an end to a 10-year tenure in the Premier League, and it's left a lot of people on social media asking the question of where Kevin De Bruyne ranks in the all-time rankings of midfielders in the Premier League. You've got some people saying that he is the top 5, some people saying he's the top 3, some people saying he's number 1, and some people saying he's not even in the top 5. And so what I thought I would do in this video is make a tier list of the top 25 greatest midfielders in the Premier League. But quickly before we get into the video, if you do enjoy this video, please consider hitting the like button. It really does help boost the content in the algorithm and get more people on the channel, more people watching the video. So I would really appreciate it if you do hit the like button and subscribe if you do want to see more of my content. And here you have it. These are the top 25 options of the best midfielders in Premier League history. Now, I did not make this tier list, so if you do have some issues with the players that have been selected, if there are some players that are missing, please take that up with the person that made the tier list, not myself. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to get on to the top 25. I'll put it into order of top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20, and top 25. Now, I'm not going to do this in any particular order, but I am going to put them into their categories. Now, we're going to obviously be starting off with the first player here, Cesc Fabregas. He spent a lot of his career, obviously, at Arsenal and Chelsea in the Premier League. I'm going to put him in top 10. I think he definitely deserves a top 10 space. An absolutely beautiful footballer. I mean, the passes that he picked out, that one pass, by the way, that just sticks in my mind. The one that he played for Diego Costa for Chelsea, an unbelievable ball in behind. He was just an absolute magician. His passing range was absolutely exquisite. An unbelievable footballer. And for me, goes in the top 10 Premier League midfielders of all time. Then you've got Christian Eriksen coming in next. Now, for me, I'm going to put Christian Eriksen in a top 20. I think that he was exceptional, specifically in his days for Tottenham Hotspur, when he was playing in that front line of Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Heung-min Son. He was absolutely unbelievable, and do not get me wrong, a great player, but for me, just not quite good enough to break into the top 15 of the best midfielders of all time in the Premier League. Obviously had an unbelievable passing range, the strikes that he could hit from distance as well, free kick taker, unreal, and obviously he's not quite the player he was now at Manchester United. He did have a good spell at Brentford though, but unbelievable on his day at Tottenham Hotspur. Then we go into Makelele. And for me, I'm going to put Makelele in the top 15. An unbelievable holding midfielder, of course, who kind of had a role defined around his brilliance. I mean, the way that he obviously held the pivot in the midfield for Chelsea, the ground that he was able to cover. Now, obviously, there's another player who's pretty much identical in terms of the play style to Makelele, or playing in that type of role, plugging that gap in midfield all on his own, will be coming up further in the list, and I think we know who we're talking about. But Makelele, I would say, if we are talking about obviously N'Golo Kante, probably one thing that he had of more of a string to his bow was playing with the ball at his feet. An unbelievable player. He didn't have that many minutes in the Premier League in comparison to some of these players, but still an unbelievable player. So he goes in my top 15. David Silva, unequivocally in my top 10, an absolutely beautiful footballer. I mean, the technical ability he had, the control, the passing, the creativity, the dribbling, everything about David Silva was just absolutely a joy to watch. And if we're looking at this picture here in this frame, the bold David Silva, he was something truly different. That version of David Silva was absolutely exceptional. Then we've got Emmanuel Petit. Emmanuel Petit, for me, I'm going to put in my top 20. Again, he's another one that maybe didn't have the minutes of some other players in this tier list. Obviously, an unbelievable midfielder for Arsenal. But for me, he just did not have the minutes of some of the other players. So that's why he's in my top 20. But obviously, an exceptional player for Arsenal. I didn't watch him as much as some of these other lads, obviously, because he's a little bit before my time. And then there is Frank Lampard. let's just put him where he belongs. He's in the top 5. Let's just be completely honest. The goal scoring ability in which he had, and I know obviously goal scoring was not all he did. I think he obviously gets underplayed in terms of his creativity as well. But the ability that he had to arrive in the box, to be able to understand the game, know which pockets to attack, know when to attack them, the intelligence of Frank Lampard was absolutely off the scale. And the numbers that he put up for Chelsea on a consistent basis in the Premier League. There was one season where he got 20 goals from midfield. 20 goals. Absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, for me, Frank Lampard is in the top 5. And then we've got Joe Cole. Now, I'm going to put Joe Cole in the top 25. For me personally, I mean, please tell me if I'm wrong. I've always thought of Joe Cole as a winger. Please correct me if I'm wrong. As I said, he's another one of those players I didn't really get to watch that much. I've obviously seen clips. I've obviously seen that he was a wicked player, don't get me wrong. But for me, I've put him in the top 25 of this list. So again, please let me know if you think I'm wrong. But that is my assessment on Joe Cole. Then for Juan Mata. Juan Mata, for me, it's very tight between 15 and 20. I'm going to put him in the top 15 for now. Just for now. The spell that he had at Chelsea, he was absolutely unbelievable. And then he went to Manchester United as well. Played very well there. But that spell he had at Chelsea, he was one of the best midfielders, not only in the league, in the world. I mean, the creativity, the goals that he was scoring, an absolutely beautiful footballer. And some of those free kicks that he scored, I mean, my word, absolutely sensational. So he will be in my top 15 for now. Kevin De Bruyne, for me, obviously the player that has made me make this video, obviously, with the announcement of him leaving Manchester City at the end of the season. Easily top 5 for me. An unbelievable footballer. He's potentially one. Probably actually is one for me. I don't know why I'm saying probably. He is my number 1. The passing range, the technique on his shot. I mean, the way he could strike the ball. It's not just the passing range as well and the vision, but it's the way that he would deliver the pass. Almost any technique he could complete, whether it was outside of his foot, whether it was a long ping across the pitch, whether it was a cute little ball through a tight space, whether it was a cross into the box. He had absolutely every single pass in his locker and he delivered it so consistently. The most assists per 90 minutes in Premier League history, second of all time in the Premier League assist chart. So for me, Kevin De Bruyne is comfortably in the top 5. And I do not know what people are talking about not putting him in their top 5. I think it's absolutely absurd personally. Moving on to Luka Modric though. I'm going to put Luka Modric in my top 20. Now, this is obviously not because Luka Modric is not one of the greatest midfielders that we have ever seen. Of course he is. But he was for Real Madrid. He wasn't for Tottenham Hotspur. He was unreal for Tottenham Hotspur, and there's a reason why Real Madrid picked him up. But when he went to Madrid, he did go to a different level. He obviously went on to have a much, much better career than he did at Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, as I said before, unreal midfielder. But for me, based off Premier League legacy, he's in my top 20. Then we've got Matt Letizia. I'm going to put in my top 15 for now. Now, this is a little bit fluid. I will move them around potentially as we go. Matt Letizia, for me, top 15, just because of the pure beauty in which he played the game. If you go back, I know obviously I'm saying about highlights. I obviously didn't watch him in the flesh. But when you go back and watch the highlights of things he was able to do in that Southampton team, absolutely unbelievable. It is an absolute joy just to go back and watch highlight reels of Matt Letizia. The things he could do with a football, unbelievable. So he's in my top 15 for now. Mesut Ozil for me is going to go in the top 20. Now, some people might find this mad. For me, Mesut Ozil in the Premier League is obviously still an unbelievable genius on the ball. Some of the passes he could pick, an unreal footballer. But if I'm basing it off Premier League legacy, I just don't think he's got the longevity. Obviously, towards the end of his Premier League career, there was that situation with Arsenal where he wasn't getting in the team regularly. It ended a little bit sour between him and the club. So I'm going to put him in the top 20. Now, that is quite still respectable to be in the top 20 Premier League midfielders of all time, but he just can't break further, in my opinion, just based off of some of the reasons that I just listed. Then we're going to go with Michael Carrick. Now, I'm going to put Michael Carrick in top 25, but I do want to give Michael Carrick a little bit of a shout out because he was a really underrated midfielder. I do have a lot of time for Michael Carrick, and I do think a lot of people underrate what he was in that Manchester United team, obviously, because Manchester United, whenever you think about their great midfielders, you think of Paul Scholes, you think of Roy Keane, you think of Nicky Butt, you think of all of these great legendary Manchester United midfielders. I do feel like Michael Carrick maybe does get forgotten a little bit. So I do want to give him a little bit of shout out. But for me, he's going to go in my top 25. Then we've got Michael Essien. Michael Essien is going to go in my top 15. Obviously, an unbelievable holding midfielder. To be honest, when I'm looking at it right now, he might potentially be dropping down to my top 20. And the reason why I say that is not because of the quality of Essien, but just because of the time that he spent in the Premier League. Now, that's the problem with a couple of these lot, is they're unbelievable footballers, but we've got to be judging it on Premier League legacy. So Michael Essien goes in my top 15 for now. We'll continue to assess it as we go. N'Golo Kante, for me, is easily a top 10 Premier League midfielder. I just don't think you can put him any lower than that. The way that he came in to the Premier League and had the impact that he did, coming into that Leicester side, winning the Premier League in a two-man midfield with Danny Drinkwater, by the way, that is unbelievable. He won the Premier League for Leicester City playing in a two-man midfield. He was the engine of that team. I don't think that they would have been able to achieve what they did without him in the midfield. Then he goes and transfers from Leicester to Chelsea. He then goes and wins the Premier League with Chelsea that season. Then he obviously goes on to win the World Cup with France, the Champions League with Chelsea. An absolutely unbelievable footballer. And if we're talking about strictly a defensive midfielder, for me, N'Golo Kante is one of the best we've ever seen in history. Potentially the best in terms of just strictly doing that defensive midfield job. He was an absolute maniac. I remember in the Champions League final, Manchester City, it was impossible to pass that midfield because he was just absolutely everywhere. Then Nicky Butt, for me, he's going top 15. I'm not one that can sit here and say I've watched him that much because he was before my time. However, obviously going off of 6 Premier League titles, obviously going off of the quality that I've seen and have heard about him, I'm going to give him a top 15 position. Again, Manchester United fans, you might be able to correct me on this. I don't think he's a top 10, but let me know. Maybe he's lower, but I've got him in the top 15, I think, obviously. But then we move on to Patrick Vieira, an absolute beast of a midfielder. These type of midfielders are the ones that I love the most. Physical, dominant, can defend really well, have long limbs so they can, make those challenges, but also have the quality to be able to burst through the lines, to be able to carry the ball. Such an elegant footballer as well for how big, strong, powerful he was. And I do think sometimes he gets misprofiled in terms of being that defensive player in the Arsenal midfield. He was much more than a defensive midfielder. I think a lot of people do forget that. So for me, Patrick Vieira goes in as a top 5 midfielder in Premier League history. I don't think you can say it any other way. Then we have Paul Ince. For me, Paul Ince is going to be going in top 25. Now, he's another one of these players that I didn't watch that much of. Obviously, I'm just going off of statistics, highlight reels, obviously what I've heard about him. And again, Manchester United fans, if you do disagree, I have no problems with you getting in the comment section. Let me know, because I didn't watch some of these players. So it's not easy sometimes to rank them accurately, or as accurately as you can rank some of these other players. But I think I'm doing a good job so far, personally. But then, of course, we've got Paul Pogba. Now, this pains me to say because I absolutely love Paul Pogba as a footballer. I think he was one of the best midfielders that we ever saw when he was at Juventus. I mean, some of the ability that he has as a midfielder, it's just, as I said before about Patrick Vieira, big, strong, powerful midfielders who can get about the park, put their body around, and also have the elegance and the beauty to be able to carry the ball forward, to affect games. Paul Pogba was that. But he's going to go in my top 25. And the reason why is because he just wasn't consistent enough at Manchester United. He obviously didn't win the Premier League. And I do think it gets overplayed at times, about him being, awful at Manchester United. I do not think that that was the case. I actually think he was a lot better at Manchester United than what people make out. He was just in a poor Manchester United side and didn't really have much support in that midfield around him. But nevertheless, for me, he's in the top 25. I just can't put him higher than that based off of what he achieved in the Premier League. It wouldn't feel right for me, although he is a phenomenally talented player. Paul Scholes for me. Paul Scholes is going to go in the top 10. Is he going to go? Yeah, he's going to go in the top 10. I had a little think about top 5 there, but Paul Scholes just is probably one or two short of that top 5 spot. Obviously, an unbelievable amount of Premier League titles. I think he won 11 Premier League titles in his career. And obviously, when he started off his career, he was more of an attacking midfielder, crashing into the box, scoring goals. But as he got older, obviously, he wasn't the most physically gifted midfielder we've ever seen. So he had to drop deeper in the pitch. He had to use his passing skill set. And I mean, my word, what a skill set that was. The ability to dictate games from deep. It's something that a lot of these players actually on the pitch probably don't have in their locker. Paul Scholes had that, the ability to dictate from deep, to be able to control games of football, to be able to dictate outcomes of matches without having to run about the park, get forward, score goals. He was a beautiful player. So for me, top 10 for Paul Scholes, without a doubt. Then for Roy Keane, Roy Keane's going to go on my top 5. I mean, I think it gets very much underplayed at times, Roy Keane's ability on the ball. A lot is obviously made about him being this midfielder who gets about the park, who was an absolute bully in there, was a leader. And obviously he was all of these things, and he was absolutely unbelievable. And you did not want to be on the wrong end of a Roy Keane challenge, as you can ask Alfie Haaland. But one thing that definitely gets underplayed is the quality in which he had on the ball, the passing range, the personality, the ability to carry the ball forward, affect games. Roy Keane was an absolutely unbelievable midfielder. So for me, he could do pretty much anything in the midfield. He goes in that top 5 spot for me. Ruud Gullit. This one is another one that pains me. He's got to go in the top 25. I'm sorry. He is one of the best midfielders that we have ever seen in not the Premier League, sorry, in football, period. I mean, in terms of what he could do in the midfield, defensive midfield, world class. Attacking midfield, world class. Central midfield, world class. Any position you put him in the midfield, and to be honest, you could put him in centre back and striker and he would still be world class. An absolutely magnificent footballer, without a doubt. I think he played 49 games in the Premier League. So I don't think we can have him much more than a top 25 in a Premier League midfield all-time ranking. Now, if we're talking about an all-time ranking of midfielders in world football, completely different conversation. He's much, much closer to that top end of the spectrum. But if we're talking Premier League, for me, he's in the top 25. Then we move on to Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard for me is top 5, sorry. Easily top 5. One of the best midfielders we've ever seen in the Premier League. Now, we know he didn't win the Premier League. We all know that. But the quality was undeniable. I mean, the passing range, the pinging from, you could ping a ball 80 yards on the dot. Some of the long range strikes he had for Liverpool. And I mean, the game that sums up his career and how unbelievably special he was that final in the Champions League where he won man of the match. He drugged. He definitely didn't drug anyone. He dragged Liverpool back into that game, obviously from 3-0 down at halftime against one of the best AC Milan sides the world has ever seen. So yeah, Steven Gerrard is undoubtedly in the top 5. He could do everything in the midfield, and a defensive beast, an attacking beast. He was just all round an unreal footballer. So Steven Gerrard goes in my top 5. And then we've got Xabi Alonso, who's another one of those players who is an absolutely unbelievable footballer. The career he went on to have for Real Madrid was absolutely outstanding, but he doesn't make it more than a top 20 in the Premier League all-time midfielders for me. Xabi Alonso obviously started his career at Liverpool. He was unreal at Liverpool, and like Luka Modric, he was so good that he had to get picked up by Real Madrid. I'm not saying he wasn't unreal when he was in the Premier League, but he went to a different level when he went to Real Madrid, and he went on to achieve much, much more than what he did in a Liverpool shirt. And because of that, he has to go in my top 20, and he can't go any further in this list. The one player I wish could probably go a little bit higher, Yaya Toure. One of my favourite footballers of all time. An absolute machine in the midfield. Always, whenever I think of the best season I've ever witnessed from a footballer, it's got to be that Yaya Toure season. And I know obviously some people say the Messi season where he scored 91 goals or whatever, but I didn't watch that season like I watched Yaya Toure's season. The amount of free kicks that he'd score, goals from distance, it was unbelievable. Yaya Toure dragged Manchester City to the 13-14 Premier League title. An absolute monumentous effort from him. Dragged us kicking and screaming there. So for me, Yaya Toure goes in the top 10 comfortably. I really want to put him in the top 5, to be honest. And we're talking about raw ability, and on their best day, Yaya Toure probably gets in the top 5, or definitely gets in the top 5. But I can't take any of those top 5 out. The one that maybe I could consider is Frank Lampard. So that is my top 25 Premier League midfielders of all time tier list. And I'm going to read through it quickly. Now, this is not in any particular order, by the way, before people start losing their minds in the comment section. Frank Lampard, Kevin De Bruyne, Patrick Vieira, Roy Keane, and Steven Gerrard as my top 5. In my top 10, I've got Cesc Fabregas, David Silva, N'Golo Kante, Paul Scholes, and Yaya Toure. In my top 15, I've got Claude Makelele, Juan Mata, Matt Letitia, Michael Essien, and Nicky Butt. Top 20, Christian Eriksen, Emmanuel Petit, Luka Modric, Mesut Ozil, and Xabi Alonso. My top 25, Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, Paul Ince, Paul Pogba, and Ruud Gullit. Now, the first name that screams to me that is missing from this list, which is technically not a central midfielder, but still played in the midfield type role, is David Beckham. Let me know if there's any other players, by the way, that were not included in this list, and let me know if you disagree with any of my rankings in the comments below. But this was my top 25 Premier League midfielders of all time. Kevin De Bruyne, by the way, my number 1. I'm biased, whatever, I'll live with it. But until next time, thank you very much for tuning into the video. Please, if you did enjoy this video, consider hitting the like button. As I said earlier in the video, it massively boosts my video in the algorithm, which means that obviously the video performs better, more people come to the channel, all of that good stuff. And of course, if you did enjoy the video and you want to see more of my content, hit the subscribe button so you can see more of my content going forward. But until then, thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.